Identity keeps you locked in a particular lens of reality. Every time you identify with something or as a certain type of person, then you are creating a lens over your eyes of how you're perceiving reality through that. So everything either feeds that or is rejected by it, and you're left navigating a space where you have to keep that view of reality and the identity that you're holding intact. It cuts you off from a ton of information that's available to you. Reality is a field, and it is a field of data and information. The identity construct is built on information and data that you've received and then have embedded into your body in anticipation of continuing to receive that type of data and feedback. All of it creates a maze, essentially, in your body. And that maze is what your life force has to move through in order to express itself. So you go to express, you go to do something, and then it has to jump through the hoop of the identity of who you are, or your lens of reality of what you're allowing yourself to see and do and play in. That's going to constrict the actual flow of the life force moving through you, because it has to adhere to the lens that you've put on your eyeballs and in your consciousness of what you're willing to experience. So, there's no type of person that you are or that you're working towards or that you want to become. You have to dismantle that entire ideology because it's not real. Where are those types of people coming from? Where's the root of all of that? If you trace it back, it has no bottom. It has no root. It's rooted in nothing. And the nothing is illusion. As soon as you put your consciousness on that and ask that question, it disappears. But what remains is actually you. That's the life force in you that wants to express itself in any and all ways. You have to give yourself radical permission to be no one and have no identity that you have to uphold. And it doesn't mean that you're gonna feel chaotic inside. It actually clears out the entire maze that you're forcing your life force through. And that's what allows your expression and creative expansion to actually occur. The way that we interface with society, which is not reality, by the way. Reality is a baseline of consciousness, and society has been built on top of that. So the identity that you've construed is to fit the society, but you don't need an identity in reality. A tree doesn't give a fuck about you and who you are and your name and where you came from. No, it recognizes consciousness and connection to life force. That's how you open up to feeling connected to reality in and of itself. You dissolve the identity. So back to identity being rooted in society, you recognize that you're trying to fit into something that's already been construed out of a translation of what reality actually is. Society is a systematic mirror of the collective distortion of disconnection from true reality. That's what it's built on. There's no need for any of those systems in order to exist. But we've been programmed to feel like we do need that because that's the world that we've been conditioned to believe is actual reality, when true reality lives below that and requires no identity. So when you interface with the world and society, let them identify you. And when you're not hooked into any of that, it doesn't really matter what people think or what they call you or what they categorize you as. That's for their own safety mechanism, essentially, to relate. they need to categorize you because unless you're in a box in some form, then they don't know how to relate to you because they're not actually relating to reality. They're relating to the identity. But when you're not fitting into any of that, it exposes the illusion of the society that they deem is reality. So anytime you're sharing, who you are in any form, anytime you're sharing your creations, your art, whatever, let other people decide what it is. And if they ask you questions, you can share, but you're not attached to what you share, and you're not attached to what they perceive about that. There's no hoops for your speech, your words to go through to fit a certain mold. And that opens you up. It opens you up to just being who you are because you're not trying to be someone on top of who you actually are. It's not necessary. And it really does hinder your ability to access, the true core of reality and the information available for you to move and navigate accordingly. When you dissolve identity, life becomes not about what type of something you're trying to fit into or work towards. It's just about energetic resonance. You get to know yourself at a base level. And so when you're walking through reality, that base level is what's communicating to you. It opens this channel. So reality becomes a field of data that you have direct access to through this channel, and it speaks to you through alignment and resonance. But you don't get caught up in the story of who's being aligned or what's not aligned or if it's wrong or right. All of that is on top of actual reality. There is no wrong or right or certain way to be in order to get somewhere. You get to create every single layer through the expression of your own being, your own frequency, every single layer. The food that you eat is going to match the resonance of your energy. The place that you live is going to match who you are and what you need to keep expanding and expressing yourself. The people that you're around are going to be a match to that. What is present in your reality and not present is going to be conducive to what's necessary for your expansion and expression. Like, it all clicks into place. And what you're doing is you're building from actual reality, not society. People go through cycles of, you have to upgrade your identity. If you have to upgrade something, then you already know that it's malleable and doesn't exist. So you can adopt structures that allow you to share who you actually are with the world, with society, because that is what's required as like a gateway of bringing your energy into that elusive world. And that's what's required right now in this, day and age and culture of sharing things. You have to tell a story about yourself, and you have to share those, your name and where you came from. And people ask those questions because they want to get to know you, because they want to categorize you. But you at your core don't need to identify with all those things or have to remember those things or construe the story of you in order to do that. It'll come naturally, and it'll be, a translation of your own energy. And you know that that's just what that is. And you leave it there. And you don't seek it out or answer any questions that are not being asked. Because again, baseline reality doesn't need you to be someone. It's the true expression of your own creative power and technology. You're bringing your frequency into form, just like a plant is bringing its frequency into form through its body. That's what you're doing too. A plant's life force expression is different than a human's, but it's still the same thing. It's coming from the same place. Root your identity in that. And the paradox is that when you see yourself as that, there is no self to see. It's movement. It's resonance. Are you called to something? Are you not? Doesn't mean anything about you. Doesn't mean you're a type of person. It means that you're doing that, which has no meaning. So there's no self to build, there's a self to deconstruct, and then you build from what you actually are, which is a frequency.